Success is all about goals, and everything else is commentary. Wow, that hit me.
Join Panita where we talk on the Techful Founder podcast. Empower your startup journey as a non-technical founder with actionable insights from successful entrepreneurs. You've mentored young professionals for decades. What's the biggest misconception they have about entering the real world after college?
Probably the biggest is that they have already learned what they need to learn, and that the world is waiting for them to show up to change the world. And they have to learn that completing college is only the beginning of the long life journey and a career.
So it's more of a beginning rather than an ending.
It is. And it's a shocking realization we all have to go through. We think that school is preparing us for life in the real world and our careers and so on. And it is, in a way, but it's only the introductory phase of what's missing is the experience part of life, not the sort of academic, you read a book and you know what's going on. To draw an analogy, let's take a romantic analogy. You can read all you want about romance, but unless you experience it, you just don't know what it is. You have an idea of what it is, but you don't really know what it is.
That is true, because there is so much more to everything that you learn in theory from university than the things that you see in the textbook.
Yeah.
I have experienced that myself. I realize that things are so different, but in a good way. In the world, it does have a lot of positive sides, but also even the negative sides are very different to what's on the textbook.
Yeah. My son, who's a lawyer in New York, just had his friend die. My son is 42 years old, and his friend was 42 from cancer. That's one of life's big experiences, is to learn our life comes to an end, and often sooner than we expect, and under strange circumstances sometimes. That's part of the life journey that you have to learn. But the basics are you're born, you have to go to school, you graduate, I don't know, you start work, you find a mate, you marry, you have children, you raise the children, get them through school, set them up, you get maybe grandchildren, and then the time has come for you to retire and off you go, right? But we're not always so conscious of that. We're leading our lives and we're preoccupied with our problems and what's going on in our lives. And sometimes life has to shock you to bring you back to what the core elements of life are. And one of the core elements of life are values. What are your values? What do you consider important in your life? And I can't go out there and tell you what your values are. I believe there are some universal values, such as life. Not taking someone's life, in my view, would be a universal value. But even then, in self-defense, that's not universal. And there may be conditions or whatever. But not doing harm to someone else might be a kind of a universal value. But most values are subjective. Value to someone, value to you or me. So you have to sort out what are your values and how are you going to live your life true to your values? Or maybe you're not going to live your life true to your values. And then you got to ask, why aren't you?
I love that. I think values are so important. I think a lot of people, they don't really know what life is about, especially when they're younger, and they don't know who they're supposed to associate with. But actually, if you just associate with people who have the values that you want to have, it's very likely that you attain those similar characteristics as well.
Yeah, you are who you associate with in large measure. But sometimes there are people in your life that you have to associate with who may not be great examples of your values. That might be an example where Perhaps you're married to someone and their family or someone in your family may not be a great example of what you stand for, what you believe in. So you have to deal with them because they're family or people that are part of your career. So in those instances, you have to narrow how much time you spend with these people. And even then, you try to improve the quality of the time that you spend with those people. An example I have from my own life was my mother was pretty negative at times. She was the original Mrs. No. Do you want to go out shopping? No. Do you want to go for a walk? No. And so I had to deal with this issue of how do you deal with someone who's a little bit too negative? And I worked at it, and we found a happy medium. So that's something we all have to work on.
So, in your book, The Young Professional, you talk about money, time, and balance as the three biggest challenges that young professionals face. What's the most overlooked lesson in each of these areas?
Okay, let's take them one at a time. Money. It's really important in life to make money. But it's also important not to become a slave to money. I believe sometimes people can overdo it in their commitment to money. They might measure their worth in terms of how much money they have and who in their life is rich and who they associate with. Are they part of the upper echelons of society? And there's an element of subordination of your values in instances like that. So let's just take an ordinary example. Let's say you're an immigrant. You come to a new country, say United States or Canada, and you have a family. Let's say you're a man, you have a wife and 2 children. And because you're an immigrant, you don't have the same exposure to job opportunities that you might have had back home. And so you take a job. Maybe it's to be a cleaner, cleaning offices, or pumping gas at a gas station. And you might be a doctor, or you might be a lawyer or an engineer back home. But here you are pumping gas or cleaning desks. Is that in accordance with your values? The answer is, it is if you are, by taking that work and doing that work, supporting your family and putting food on the table. That's the value. Okay, it's not the value of I want to show my great capabilities in law or medicine or whatever. Maybe you're missing the mark on that side, but your value is in feeding and looking after your family. That's a high value. Another example of the other side would be person maybe, let's say, a lawyer, and they decide because they're after the money, they decide to work for people who've got a lot of money. And some people who have a lot of money are crooks, thugs, gangsters. And so you sell yourself. It's a kind of economic prostitution that for the sake of money, you work for people who are unworthy of your real values, or what should be perhaps your real values. So money is not everything, but people sometimes, in this society, people worship money. People worship, if you have money, all of a sudden people are your best friends and they all glorify you and they think you are someone special, that a celebrity that merits great respect and attention. That might be an example of this discordance with values, or should have been perhaps an example of a discordance of values. That's money. And then we got to talk about time. The problem in the area of time, what people miss in the area of time is they don't list priorities. They don't decide what are the priorities in their life. And so they go on frittering away time, frittering away life. Time is life. Every moment is life. I remember one day a lawyer that worked in my office went for a walk somewhere, and a few of us were looking out the window as she was coming back, as she was standing at a red light. And we're just thinking, gee, that red light's taking 2, 3 minutes. You can stand there and just wait 2, 3 minutes. You can stand there and think about your life or something important for 2, 3 minutes, or you could open a book and read for 2, 3 minutes. Those are examples of the way that time can pass and what you can do to improve your then. Excuse me. In the area of balance, the best example of an unbalanced human being I can think of was Van Gogh, the artist. He was a spectacular painter. Probably, I don't know, I'm not the expert, but I would say the world's best so far, or one of the world's best. But he was a catastrophe in terms of a balanced lifestyle. His brother looked after him. And other than in the area of art, the life was a disaster. Like he couldn't look after his own self. So now you can be out of balance for a while. So for example, in my case, I had to write bar exams. So for several weeks, a couple of months or whatever, I had to closet myself up and study my books and learn everything I could about the law so I could write the bar exam. So I neglected, for example, my wife, my children. I neglected my responsibilities, pay the taxes, do the shopping, whatever it is. That was an unbalanced life. But I unbalanced it for the sake of a higher goal. So I was able to achieve becoming a member of the bar. And then I tried to steer my life back into balance with what was appropriate for my life. So balance is losing your balance for a while may be okay. But if you aren't paying attention to your core values in general, and you're just leading a life, this kind of a life, I'll just get up and whatever happens today is what I'll deal with. That's a troubled life. That's a life where I led that life for a while. After law school, after I graduated from bar exam, I spent a couple of, maybe 2 months or so, where I decided I'm going to do exactly what I feel like doing. And I'm going to be very happy. So I'd sleep until 11 o'clock in the morning, get up, go for breakfast, go to a movie, eat a luscious dinner, have a great dessert, banana cream pie dessert or whatever, go to bed, wake up in the morning. So after 2 months, my life was going like this. I had to pull out of that. That's a hedonistic lifestyle. I thought I'd be happy. No, was not happy. I was destroying myself. And so it was a lesson I had to learn. Don't try it. There's a little story about the John Paul Getty Museum. They came up with this idea. They had some artists in residence, I think. Let's give them everything they need for a whole year. Rent for free, food, some spending money, free time. Give them everything they want for an entire year. And let's see what they can create. They tried it for a year. It was a disaster. It didn't create anything. Like it was just complete waste of money. Because I guess you need structure. You need discipline and demands on your life. The people who retire often discover, there's statistics that say after you retire, there's a big blip in people who die because they lose meaning. They don't have goals to keep them going. Yeah. So that's it.
Definitely agree with your last point. I think anytime when we try too hard to be happy or like we lose that balance, that if anything, making your life harder makes your life easier. Harder in the short run makes it easier in the long run, like the discipline
That's
of
right.
exercise, being balanced, like you said, and ensuring that you're not overworking. Overworking is fine for like maybe a really short period of time, like for your bar exam. But
Yeah.
anything that is too long term, it will actually impact your performance and you won't achieve your goals anyway.
I tell my kids, be hard on yourself and life will go easy on you. I think that's true.
Yeah, I agree, but not too harsh. That,
Not too hard there.
yeah. So many professionals struggle with feeling stuck in their careers. What's a mindset shift or strategy that can help them get unstuck and move forward?
I was very struck by something Brian Tracy said. And he said, and this is almost a direct quote, I might be paraphrasing a bit, but he said, success is all about goals, and everything else is commentary. That hit me. Success is about goals, and everything else is commentary. So, do you have goals? Are they clear? Are they worthy of you? Is this really what you want? And that's the central question I think the two central questions in life. Why am I here is number one. Why am I here? And what should I do? What should I be doing? What should I do with my life? And that's about goals. So if you're stuck, you have to check your premises about what your goals are and what are you after. You can't be stuck. Life is not about being stuck. Life is about achieving something, making something better than what it is right now. You can't lead life saying, I'll just hang on to what I got, because you'll lose what you got. You have to, it's either growth or death. And it's something we have to pick up, each one of us in our own way, through our own life experiences. And you either pick it up yourself or you watch someone else decay right in front of your eyes and you see them wither away, often for reasons related to goals. They don't have any goals. I spent a lot of time with older women. My mother lived to 95, my aunt, her sister, Aunt Helen. My mother was in Edmonton, Canada, and my Aunt Helen was in Los Angeles. And they were 2 years apart, so I had to spend some time, particularly during the later part of their lives, shuttling back and forth, and looking in on them and helping them along. And as they got older, I realized that to make their life meaningful and happy, they needed something to look forward to. If they didn't have something, beware if you don't have something to look forward to. Beware. Your life goes down the drain fast. So you have to choose. There was, I think, the news stories about the astronauts that went to the moon. I saw Buzz Aldrin in person one day in Los Angeles. He was at one of the hotels there, and I was there, so I saw him. I didn't meet him, but I saw him in person, which was a big thrill for me. I saw someone who's walked on the moon. But they say that when those astronauts came back, they got depressed, because once you walked on the moon, what other goal could you have that's greater than that? But the answer was they needed other goals to carry on their life. Yeah. So if you're stuck, look at your goals. Pick new goals, bigger goals.
Sure that your goals are yours and not what society expects of you. Or sometimes you think they're your goals, but they're actually not. And how do you dig that out and ensure that you're doing something that's aligned?
Hard question. I myself, in reflecting on my life, realize that in large measure, my life was chosen for me. I didn't choose to be who I am and what I am. My predecessors chose my life for me, where I was born, from where I came, the history behind my family and my background, my cultural community. I'm Ukrainian in background. This very day, for example, I'm involved in in reading about and following the discussions that are taking place pertaining to the peace negotiations related to the war between Russia and Ukraine, where Russia invaded Ukraine. If I wasn't Ukrainian in background, I probably wouldn't care as much, but I do care. And I wasn't born in Ukraine. I was born in Canada. My family came to Canada 110 years ago. But I still have that association. I identify with that. I chose that identity. I could have grown up and changed my name to, I don't know, William Williams or Williams Jones, and behaved in that manner. I'm white in terms of race. I might fit into a North American mold or whatever. And I suppose I could lead a life, and many people do. They just assimilate. They just give up on their background and all that. That's a choice. And I do appreciate. You have a race, for example, you have a gender, but even still, it's a choice on how you deal with that. You may accept your race or your gender or your ethnic or whatever background, or you may not. You may want to change your gender or a race. I think the key is to define in words what are your values. Now, values can be anything. I'll just give you a description. By the way, I didn't invent all this stuff. This is all stuff I read and learned from other people. I'm no genius. I don't have all this down. I'm not Socrates or something. I just share an experience I had. My Aunt Helen, I mentioned her earlier, in Los Angeles, 95 years old. Back when she's around 90, one day she's sitting at the kitchen counter. I figure I'll make her breakfast. So I'm behind the kitchen sink there, sorting out pots and pans under the kitchen sink, and I see this stainless steel pan to make bacon and eggs. So I pull it out. She starts yelling at me, "No, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't." I said, "I'm going to cook, don't touch that. Put it back, put it back." So I put it back. I got another pan, made not pancakes, but bacon and eggs. Then I'm thinking about it. That's a value. Something like a frying pan for her was a value. I can't tell you what your values should be. There are some values with some exception. Don't kill. I can tell, don't kill. No, don't kill. Ever. Except if you're, and here you go, except if you're being attacked, then you're going to be killed. But other than those kind of universal values, absolute, that I believe exist, almost every other value is a relative value to the person involved. And you have to define those. You can't lead life without defining your values. You can, but you're going to end up leading someone else's values. Someone else will occupy your life and take over your life and have you doing what they want you to do, which may be your parents, by the way. So I don't know where I started and why I'm going down this direction. But anyway, that's a half answer to what you're asking about.
Definitely. I think you've answered it perfectly. So to ensure that your goals are yours, figure out what your values are, and then align your goals to those values.
Yeah.
So
So ask just a little more help there. So
Yeah.
what are it's easy to say, what are your goals? So again, we're back to philosophy. Who am I and why am I here are the two big questions in philosophy, at least for me. And who am I? And why am I here? So this definition of values, putting your thoughts into words and identifying what is important in words in your life. That's close to what Brian Tracy was talking about in terms of success is goals. So putting your goals or your values into writing is what's needed. And that's difficult. It's not something, oh, I'll sit down in 3 minutes, I'll write out all my values. And now I know what my life is about. No. In here, this is an entire universe between these 2 ears. It's probably bigger than the universe out there. You have to explore in here to figure out, in addition to out there, to figure out what are your values. And that's a life journey. What is my value? My life, my values change from day to day. So I have to know what's changing, what's making me different.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So for those in corporate jobs who want to start a business, what are the key signals to tell them that it's time to take a leap into entrepreneurship?
Forgive me, I'm going to ask you to restate that question. Did you say to leave or to lead?
To leap. Leap.
To leap. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So meaning I'm in a job, and when's it time for me to leap to start my own business?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say like this, Benita, inside your heart, down there somewhere, there's an aching need, a burning need to make something out of your life, to find the meaning in your life. Why are you here? And to exercise the purpose that is driving you in your life. Now, it may be so covered up you can't even find it. You can't even identify it. And that's part of the journey. You have to dig deep inside to find it. It's probably related to your history and your parents and grandparents and, the history that happened long before you were even born. That's a good place to poke around to find it. But in some cases, it's burning. Like I'm reading a biography of Bill Gates. He seems to be on this computer business from a young age, and he fell into all kinds of fortunate experiences. But part of it was his intense interest in computer. It was just like absorbing. It was like burning inside. Do it. Microcomputers, Microsoft. And part of it is the more time you spend on something, the more interesting it becomes. If you got to take a jar of, fleas. It's ugly at first, but over time, if you look at it, you study fleas and so on, pretty soon it becomes interesting. And the more you know about it, the more you think, oh, this is really interesting. And you become a world expert at it. Some person's working away, maybe feeding a family, like we talked about earlier, doing something worthy with his or her life for the sake of the young people that are in their family and for their spouse. High worthy the life. But maybe they want something better. Maybe inside the heart is telling them, I can do better than this. I can make something great out of myself. I have a purpose to fulfill. There's a mission to this meaning of mine. I got to find it and I have to take the leap. Not because I want to make more money. I want to be a millionaire, have fur coats and drive Tesla, whatever cars. And maybe that can drive you. If it drives you, go ahead. But I'm thinking deeper. Why do you need a Tesla? Why do you need a fur? There maybe is a deeper value there. I want attention. I need recognition. I want the world to value me as a person. I want the world to recognize that I'm a someone, whatever that is. So the place to start, I would say, is dig inside your heart and soul. Figure out, what is it about me that makes a difference? That might, for example, forgive me, I like to talk about things like this. And I get carried away.
Same, honestly.
In my case, I'm a journalist. I write for Forbes. I've been writing for Forbes for 10 years before I was a UN correspondent. I never started out that way. I never planned to be a journalist. In fact, I tell this story often. When I was at university, in first year university, I'd take a course I had to take a course called English 101. And our professor assigned us a assignment. He said, read this sonnet by John Donne. It's called Death. And the sonnet goes, Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty, for thou art not so. And onward like that. Write an essay about this. What does this mean to you? So I wrote an essay, sent it in. F for failure. I'm thinking, I did such a good job. I'll go to see him. I don't remember the guy's name anymore, but anyway, I go to see him. He says, nah, you didn't do a good job of this. You got to rewrite this thing. There's nothing there. So I go back and I think about it. I write it again. And I spent a whole semester rewriting that essay. I submitted it 5 times to him. And on the 5th time, it was the day before we were the end of the semester, he gave me a 50% mark, pass, probably taking pity on me because he knew if I didn't get past this course, I wouldn't be able to continue with my education. So I was pathetic writing. I was pathetic. It's a fact. Now, today, if that guy learned that guy's now a Forbes writer and was a UN correspondent, wrote for, he'd turn over in his grave. You're like, what? And indeed, what? How did that happen? It happened because life was telling me something. We talked earlier before we came on air about Toastmasters, and I showed you this plaque above my shoulder here. That's a Toastmasters plaque that I'm a distinguished Toastmaster, which is the highest level of Toastmaster you could be. Now, that took me 35 years. I was a Toastmaster for 35 years, and every week I went to a club meeting where we had people present ideas and then give them feedback, telling them how they could improve. Things like, don't say all the time, don't shuffle around on your feet, look at your audience, don't read your speech, talk to the audience, things like that. That's what my interest was, presentations and being an orator. But life said to Andy, you need to write. You got to learn how to write. And so I wrote first lousy articles and then better articles to student newspapers about my life as a student, or what do I care about in Canada, multiculturalism, things like this. And over time, I became a little bit better. And then I got a law degree. And I was approached by an organization that said, hey, we need some help. It was actually at the UN. Could you go and represent us and help us as a lawyer, but you could also be a writer? And I became a writer, a journalist. And I wrote for Southern News Services, in part for Southern News Services, which is a English language chain that newspapers throughout Canada. And that's how, in my case, became a writer. Although I didn't know, this is, life told me, you have to be a writer. So now I'm a writer. But I'm still a presenter. I still like presentations. So anyway, that's not so brief an answer to that.
You have to take a sign that life gives you and go with your intuition in a way.
Your gut. Yeah. And there'll be signs. Your gut will tell you, oh no, don't go down there. Example for me was, I was in high school and a friend of mine, I used to hang out with a group of guys, and they started stealing cars. And I was in a car where they would drive all together, and then 2 guys would get out and steal a car and take off and go, I don't know what you call it, freewheeling around the streets on this stolen car. And it didn't feel right. I didn't want to be part of this thing. One day he phoned me, said, hey, come on, Andy, let's go. I got a car, stolen car. Let's go to the zoo for an event. Where they've got an event going down there. Let's go together. I said, I don't want to go. Inside, gut. He went. The cops caught him, arrested him, threw him in jail. Now that's, I don't know, 50 years ago or so, more, 60 years ago. But it was just my gut telling me, hey, if you're better than that, don't do that. And I might say in dating, listen to your gut. Sometimes your gut will tell you, this is a mistake, man.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely true. So, what's a financial mistake you often see young professionals and early stage founders make that sets them back years?
That's a difficult question. I'll share an experience that I had. Okay. My wife and I, we were approached by stockbrokers, and we were in a kind of a circle of family, young professionals back then. And the stockbrokers wanted us because, oh, lawyer, he's going to make money, a doctor, whatever. And so they approached us and they showed us how to take interest in the stock market, futures. So we started taking an interest. It's how to make money. Now, this is this values problem. Let's make a lot of money so we'll be rich, right? Yeah, we can learn how to do that. So my wife and I started going to this. Back then is you didn't have a computer where you watched everything. You had to go to a stockbroker's office, and they had computers where you could watch prices going up and down. And there was this thing called day trading. And we were interested in gold, day trading, and dollars, US dollars. And we thought we could figure this out. We'll just buy some gold. And when it goes up, we'll sell it and we'll make money. Buy and sell. And or dollars, US dollars. We buy US dollars with Canadian dollars, we buy US dollars. And then when it goes up, we sell. And indeed, in the beginning, it looked really great. I had one transaction where I bought dollars and I made something like, I don't know, a lot of money. Back then it was, I think, $10,000 in a week. And I noticed that the stockbrokers were all taking an interest in me. How did I make $10,000? And I'm thinking, that's pretty rare it seems pretty rare that they're all interested in how did I make this? So we went every day, my wife and I, and my wife was pregnant with our first, we're at the stockbroker's office every day watching gold and deciding when should we buy and when should we sell. Now we didn't have any big money we learned quickly. We lost our money. Whatever money we had to invest. Painful. But it just the stock market told us, hey, if you're stupid, don't get into the stock market. Now, I suppose there are people who can make a living in the stock market. But one way to lose money, a fool and his money are easily parted. Take good advice. Measure twice before you cut once. If you're going to invest in the stock market, I don't invest in the stock market because I learned my lesson. I lost a lot of money. Luckily, small amounts rather than my life savings or whatever. But it taught me, stay away from that. It's not for you, Andy. And so people say, well, buy blue chip stocks or whatever. But I don't know how to do it. I do real estate. I'm involved in real estate, buying a house, keeping it for 20 years. I found that to be worthwhile. But even that, you can lose money. But a good way to lose money is think you know everything and you know how to make money without studying and just dive in and start investing. You'll lose your shirt real quick.
Yeah. Key lesson here is to invest in something you understand. Like, since you
Yeah.
understand real estate, you should be doing real estate.
Yeah. Even when you understand something, there are lessons to learn. I'll tell you this, you got to be ready to lose money in life because you're going to lose it. No doubt about it. There'll be times when you lose money. Hopefully small amounts that'll teach you, oh, don't do it that way. It's a good lesson because it hurts. So you remember. And that's one good thing to do is lose a little bit of money so you learn. Don't do that. Yeah.
Make up tuition, right?
Yeah.
Instead of paying for a course.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen to advice from those who have done successfully what you wanted, not the failures, not people who have opinions, but from people who have successfully done what you want to do. And study hard.
So networking is one of the biggest career accelerators, but many struggle with it. What's your number one piece of advice for building powerful, authentic professional relationships?
I was the chairman of the Beverly Hills Bar Association Networking Committee for 3 years. I enjoyed that. And I used to give a speech at the beginning of each meeting. And the speech included this little message, which is, there's this famous speaker in the United States called Zig Ziglar. He's passed on, but he was great in his day. And this is the message he used to pass on in his speeches, which is, you can get anything you want in life so long as you help enough other people get what they want. And that's what networking is, focusing on other people and what they want and helping them get what they want in the hopes that maybe you will benefit from it as well. A key to networking, in my view, is total, undivided attention. No cell phone, no secondary conversation. I stay focused on you. The person in front of you needs undivided, total, focused attention. That's the gold standard of communication in our lives. Our young people, my daughter and my son, they're in meetings. I often watch them at meetings with other young people, and they're sitting there and they're talking about their cell phones. I think, well, but I guess that's part of life too. But I think if you want to make a great contribution in someone's life, time, there's a saying, you spell love, Time, total, undivided, focused attention on children, for example. That's pure love.
Yeah, I've heard that quote from Zig Ziglar, and I completely agree. I think it is very true. I think a lot of people, they go into networking events trying to get something for themselves, and then they fail. But the ones who succeed are the people who help other people get what they want. And what you said about undivided attention is also very true. I think it sounds so simple, but it's actually very difficult to do, especially in this day and age with so much distractions, notifications. That's why I have most of my notifications off for most of the day. Otherwise, I can't do anything.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
You've seen thousands of people navigate a transition from school to the workforce. What's one skill or habit that consistently separates those who thrive from those who struggle?
There's a guy named Jim Rohn who used to be America's great business philosopher. He's passed on as well. And in his lectures, he used to say, I don't know, again, paraphrasing, but something along the lines of, you should work twice as hard on yourself as you do on the job. Meaning, your life should be all about self-improvement. Become the best you that you can be. So, like in Toastmasters, to become a better Toastmaster, you have not only to speak, but you have to learn how to speak better. So it's practice, but practice alone isn't enough. You have to be better. You have to learn how to be better. So it's practice with education. And the same, it's true in any field. You want to be a singer, sing. You want to be a dancer, dance. You want to be an actor, act. But it's not just the experience. It's learning how to be better at the experience. So I would say that's a key, the discipline behind. Generally, young people talk about great dreams, but they don't factor in the discipline needed for great dreams. And it's the discipline that makes the dream. That's a quick way of answering that.
Definitely. I think it's very clear. So self-improvement and discipline.
Yeah.
So for young professionals considering international careers or remote work abroad, what are some overlooked opportunities that can help them land jobs or work in different countries?
Okay. I would say we're going to circle around to probably the same theme, which is ask yourself, how am I unique? What have I got to give the world that nobody else can give the way that I can? And we're all unique. You're unique. I'm unique. You're unique because there's nobody else like you who grew up where you grew up, who had your parents, who got your education, who lived where you lived, who did what you did, who read the books you read. So you have a role to play in this world. You have a purpose. You have something to share with the world. But the key is to find out what is it that's unique about your life. And in the area of uniqueness, I'll just share one story that motivated me a lot. And it's a story about Karl Wallenda. Karl Wallenda was one of the world's great tight rope walkers who walked on a rope high up in the skies and ultimately died walking on a tightrope a rope between two buildings in San Juan, Puerto Rico, I think in the 1980s. But I believe before he died, or maybe it was in an interview with his wife, I'm not sure, but he was quoted. They asked him, "Why do you walk the tightrope?" And he said, "Because in my life, I really lead life while I'm on the tightrope. And everything before is a mere prelude to, and everything after is a postscript following the true life that I experienced while walking the tightrope." And he loved that so much that he was willing to risk death to do it. And they talk about, I've read books and also heard of other celebrities who express similar thoughts. So, for example, Elvis Presley, in his life, really led his life, really enjoyed his life when he was performing on stage before an audience. Same kind of a deal. Everything before, everything after was superfluous compared to the experience on stage. And there's this thing called zone. Some artists, athletes talk about being in the zone. For example, tennis players, I think Arthur Ashe talked about it, where he was playing and he was playing so well, he was in his zone, that nothing mattered. It was just playing the game at that moment to the best of his abilities. So that's a unique aspect, a unique ability that you have. And when you're in this unique ability, because time goes by, you think it's 10 minutes and it's 2 hours when you emerge from an activity where you're in your unique ability. Your hair rises on your hand or wherever on the back of your neck when you're into this area or this activity. People tell you're great at this. These are some of the signals that tell you this is something you should do. If you get into that unique ability overseas or at home, it's almost impossible to lose there because nobody else can compete with your unique ability, or maybe few can. Because the reason why you can be outstanding there is because you pour your passion into it. An example is this activity right now is something I dearly love. It's part of this Toastmasters kind of experience. It's a place where I can share my thoughts and the things that mean the most to me. And so I don't know how long we've spent together, but it seemed to me like 5-10 minutes, right? And I'm sure it's an hour or whatever it is, because the passion is there. And I think it is for you too. I have a feeling that it is for you too. So that's what makes it unique. That's why this program, or programs like this that you will make, will rise in prominence, because you're dealing with the values, the golden embers of life that people need to hear and share.
Yeah, I think that's very clear, especially for young people, because I feel like a lot of people, they feel like they're just like everyone else and that they're not unique, but actually everyone has their sort of genius, right? Like what you
Oh, yeah.
said, if the time just passes away and you're just stuck on this thing, that is your thing and you should go for it.
Yeah.
Unless it's illegal, then don't go for it.
No, of course not. Yeah. Yeah. I'll just share one other insight here. Just in my case, for example, there's some things I believe I have unique ability in, stuff like this that I'm talking about, writing. There's other stuff I'm terrible at. For example, just to make this clear, Einstein was a genius at physics, but he was a terrible, say, basketball player or mechanic, say, or whatever, because no person can be perfect at everything, right? So we have to keep that in mind. It's not, Einstein was a genius in physics, but maybe he was a disaster. Van Gogh was a disaster in life, but he was a genius in art, right? In my case, I'm a disaster when it comes to income taxes. I know it. My accountant knows it. The income tax authorities know it, and now the world knows it. So, you, but there's only a few things, like in a bell curve, there's only a few things in your life where you're outstanding, or maybe just one or two. So you got to look for that one or two over there.
So for entrepreneurs or professionals looking to move abroad for work, what are the most common immigration or visa challenges that they should prepare for?
There's a thing called digital nomads now. So I would encourage people, young people who want to do that, to look up digital nomad on Google or ChatGPT or whatever, and pick up the details about digital nomad visa. But otherwise, just a quick suggestion would be figure out where you're going and Google or ChatGPT, ask, what visa do I need in order to work at, let's say, for example, Thailand? I'm going to Bangkok. What visa do I need and how do I get it? And it'll tell you, it'll give you the details and follow the rules. But initially, you can come in as a visitor anywhere. I would start with, I'm a visitor, come to France or wherever you want to go. And once you're there and you get the lay of the land, what's happening, and you know what you want to do, then you can start worrying about, let's see, how do I get a work visa to do this? Young people, there's a thing called SWAP, SWAP, which is a program. It's a working holiday program that works for many countries. So students who just graduated can use SWAP to get work permits to work, for example, in Canada or the United States or abroad. And I would encourage people to check that out as a preliminary thing.
Sound very interesting. I wish I knew about that earlier.
They can still do it.
If you could give one piece of advice to your 25-year-old self, what would it be?
I'll give you a formula that I believe is very helpful. It consists of 5 parts, what I call the keys to a successful life. Number 1, come on time. Number 2, do what you promise. Number 3, finish what you start. Number 4, mean what you say. Meaning, don't be cynical. Tell the truth and mean what you're saying. Number 5, be kind. Be kind. And I would also add thankful. Be thankful for what you have. I'm thinking of adding number 6, then I think 6 is not good. I have to have 7, but I can't think of number 7, so I'm stuck on 6. Be kind and be thankful, but I'll come up with the 7 yet. I'm working on it.
You can email me once you get it. I'll add it in.
Yeah.
I love that. I think this was a wonderful conversation, and I'm sure our younger audiences will find a lot of value in this. Thank you so much, Andy, for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Benita. I loved being with you. Thanks for
Okay.
everything.